As for what justice looks like, Lopez Stewart says seeing not just one person held responsible, but multiple, because she believes her daughter was set up.
If you instigate something that causes a murder, then you need some kind, you need something. I think you need to go to jail too.
A mother who buried her daughter and unborn grandchild in the same casket, telling the world the shooter was not alone. Someone set this whole thing up. So who was Quelicia Barnes? And what did someone have to gain by making sure she never saw that baby born? Quelicia Barnes grew up in Southwest Detroit. And if you have any connection to that city, you already know what that means. Detroit does not produce soft people. It is a city that demands something from you every single day, and the people who make it out of there with something to show for it had to want it with everything they had. Quelicia wanted it. She came up in one of the most competitive rap scenes in the country, putting in real work alongside artists that the culture genuinely respects. Her album, Ditty of My City, dropped in November of 2021 and featured names like I Swear Vezo and Babyface Ray, two artists who do not lend their presence to just anybody. Tracks like Bag Talk, Twerk, and Where You At were her way of telling the world who she was.
Feeling like a millie, probably cause I know I'm worth a millie. Wrist all litty and the whip all shitty. Bad little bitch, red bottoms and Givenchy. Niggas leave their family for one night with me. Hoes don't.
But music was only one of the things she was running at the same time. She also founded So City Boutique, an online fashion brand she registered as a proper business in Georgia back in March of 2021. The boutique was selling custom fur coats, heels, and women's clothing that matched her whole energy as a person, glamorous, confident, and built for women who carry themselves like they know their worth. By the time she was killed, the boutique's Instagram had grown to over 11,000 followers, and she was running physical pop-up events near Detroit in the East Point area. And then there was nursing school. While running a business, putting out music, and managing her life across 2 cities, Quelicia had enrolled in nursing school and earned her way onto the dean's list, which means she was performing at the top of her class. She had roughly 2 semesters left before she would have had her registered nurse degree.
But Barnes wasn't just a rapper. She was also an aspiring nurse.
She made the dean's list. She had like 2 more semesters to go. She was so proud of herself, and we were so proud of her.
She had been living in the Atlanta metro area for close to 10 years at this point. Her Instagram bio read From the D to A, Detroit to Atlanta, and she wore that identity like something she had earned rather than something she was performing. Her personal account had grown to over 100,000 followers, and not long before she was killed, she had bought a brand new 2024 Range Rover Sport and posted videos of herself jumping for joy in front of it with a giant red bow still sitting on the hood. She was also 14 weeks pregnant, something her family kept completely private while she was alive and only told the world after she was gone. And looking at her social media, you would never have known. Her Instagram was all fashion shoots, boutique drops, music clips, and celebration posts. She was not the kind of woman who was broadcasting her personal life to strangers, which means the person who knew about that pregnancy and felt threatened by it was someone who was close to her, someone she trusted. Now, here's the part that matters for understanding who was around her and what was at stake. Her sister, Shatara Davis, had been living with her in Atlanta, not just in the same apartment, but in the same room, sharing the same bed. That is the kind of closeness that most siblings do not have, and it means Shatara knew Quelicia in a way that few people outside the family ever did.
I know her as Qualeisha. I know her as Lily. I know her as we in the same house, in the same bed. That's what I know her as. All that friend stuff, I don't care about none of that. That was my sister. That was my baby.
Her mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, described a woman who was impossible not to love the moment you met her.
She liked to laugh, and she always cracking jokes on me.
Barnes' mom, Francine Lopez Stewart, says her rap name fits her perfectly.
She loved makeup. She loved dressing up. She loved beauty. So, and she was a ditty.
The stage name was not just marketing. The word Sidity is a term in Black culture for a woman who carries herself with a certain glamorous, high-maintenance energy, and her mother said it fit Quelicia perfectly because that was just who she was at her core. She loved beauty, fashion, and making people laugh. She had over 100,000 people following her life online and a baby on the way that she was excited about, even if she had kept the pregnancy out of the public eye. This was a woman with everything moving in the right direction, which makes what happened next that much harder to sit with. The night of April 7th, going into the early hours of April 8th, 2026, was the last night of Quelicia Barnes' life, and by all accounts, it was not supposed to go the way it did. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Quelicia was scheduled to fly to Detroit that same day to visit her sister, and her family had plans tied to the pregnancy, including a gender reveal party that she was never going to make it to. Whatever drew her to a quiet residential street in southeast Atlanta at 1:23 in the morning, it was somewhere she was not supposed to be that night, according to the plans everyone around her knew about. Atlanta Police Department Homicide Lieutenant Christopher Butler gave a statement to the press early that morning. He told reporters it appears that someone fired into the car, striking the woman multiple times. He also told them investigators had a general idea of the route that was taken and were tracing it backward to figure out the full picture of Quelicia's movements that night, including whether she had been with anyone before she ended up on Springside Place. He made a direct public ask to the community. Cameras, neighbors, and anonymous tips are three huge assets. Police noted in their canvassing of the neighborhood that Quelicia did not appear to have any connection to the homes on that street. She was not visiting a friend, not parked in front of a family member's house, and there is no obvious reason she would have been on that particular block in the middle of the night. That detail matters because it suggests she was either lured to that location or was meeting someone there, and whoever she was going to see may be the key to the whole investigation. Multiple homes on Springside Place had security cameras visible from the street, including at least one ring camera on the house directly in front of where her Range Rover was found. Since the street only has one entry point, any vehicle involved in the shooting had to pass those cameras at least twice, once coming in and once leaving. Whether that footage gave investigators a usable lead has never been publicly confirmed. 2 days after the shooting, Quelicia's mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, and her sister, Shatara, gave interviews to 11 Alive and CBS Atlanta and said what the police had not yet said publicly: she was set up, the pregnancy was why it happened, and more than one person is responsible for her death. Francine said clearly that whoever helped arrange this killing should go to jail just the same as the person who fired the shots. As of May 2026, Atlanta police have not made any arrests, named any suspects, or publicly confirmed a motive. To understand where this case is likely headed, and to understand why Quelicia's family pointing at the pregnancy as the motive is not just grief talking, you have to look at what happened in Troup County, Georgia in October of 2021. Because that case is essentially the same story, and it has a full ending that involved a courtroom, a life sentence, and a man who thought he could solve his problems by ending a pregnant woman's life. Akilah Ware was 28 years old, a registered nurse and a mother of 5 children who by every account was pushing hard to build a better life for her family. She was 33 weeks pregnant, well into her 3rd trimester, when on October 5, 2021, she was shot multiple times while driving her Honda Accord on Highway 18 in West Troup County, about 60 miles southwest of Atlanta. Like Quelicia, she was shot from outside the vehicle while sitting in the driver's seat. Her car was described by investigators as riddled with bullet holes, and it crashed into a tree roughly 3 miles down the road from where the gunfire started, after her killer ran her off the road. She was still alive when first responders reached her, but she died shortly after arriving at the hospital in Columbus, Georgia. Her unborn son died with her.
A gut-wrenching story out of Troup County where a pregnant 29-year-old mother of 5 was killed in what authorities believe was a drive-by shooting.
Quelicia Ware's killer is still out there on the streets, and her family is desperate for answers and justice. They spoke with Fox 5's Patty Pan about their devastating loss.
Quelicia Ware's family is pleading for the public's help in finding the person or people responsible for this crime. The 29-year-old was shot and killed while driving down the road. Both she and her unborn child died from those injuries.
Like you're just gonna wake up, out of it, and it's, just not gonna be true. It's not gonna be so,
Quelicia Ware's heart has been ripped open. This mother could barely talk about her daughter Quelia's sudden death, a beautiful soul lost too soon. Troup County investigators say they were called out to State Route 18 near East Drummond Road Tuesday for a vehicle crash just before 1 in the afternoon. That's when they say they found the 29-year-old LaGrange woman in her car unresponsive. Firefighters had to extricate Ware from the car, and that's when we're told they noticed the bullet holes on the driver's side door.
We don't believe it was random. We do believe that the suspect knew this victim and the victim knew the suspect, but we don't have a good enough name to put out there yet, but we're certainly working all the leads.
Detectives believe she was shot at and then her car went off the road and slammed into a tree. The incident happened in broad daylight.
Very bold and very cold and very callous just to do this, and that's why we certainly want to, put a name with a shooter, and so we can get that person, or if there were other people involved, get both of those people in custody.
Ware, whom families say was a registered nurse, has 5 children and was pregnant again at the time. Neither she nor her unborn child survived the injuries.
Quelicia, she was a very smart, bright young lady. If anybody have any information, please come forward. Do it for us, her family, her kids especially.
Troup County authorities say that this is a top priority for their department. They believe that second car involved is possibly a silver Nissan with front end damage. Anyone with any information is being urged to call authorities or Crime Stoppers.
Troup County Sheriff James Woodruff went to the scene personally and told reporters he could not believe what he was looking at. A young mother of 5 children who was also carrying a child, killed on a public road in broad daylight. He called it very bold, very cold, and very callous. Investigators arrived expecting a car accident and reclassified it as a homicide within minutes of seeing the vehicle. Now here's where the story gets familiar. The man who killed Quelicia was not a stranger, not a random gunman, not some beef from the street. He was Alonzo Dargan Jr., a United States Army Staff Sergeant with 12 years of active duty service, decorated, deployed to Afghanistan, and stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina at the time of the murder. He had grown up in the same town as Quelicia, and they'd gone to school together. He was the father of her unborn child and was also married to another woman named Brianna Dargan, with 2 children of his own at home, which is all you need to know about the motive. A pregnancy he could not explain to his wife, a secret that was going to become impossible to keep, and a man who decided the only way out was to make sure Quelicia did not survive long enough to have that baby. Investigators determined that Dargan had followed Quelicia's car on Highway 18, pulled up alongside it while both vehicles were moving, and opened fire into her car before running her off the road. Georgia State Patrol crime scene technicians processed the wreckage and found evidence pointing to a second vehicle, and once they matched it to a silver Nissan Altima, the trail led directly to Dargan. Army CID agents arrested him at Fort Bragg just 2 days after the shooting and seized the car.
A soldier is now in custody facing several charges in the murder of a pregnant woman from LaGrange, Georgia. And that woman, Quelicia Ware, the 29-year-old who was shot at the intersection of Highway 18 and Whitesville Road. And today, investigators revealed some brand new information about exactly what happened. CBS 46's Savannah Louie has more now from Troup High School, where the pair met years ago. Savannah, what have you learned?
Mother, she tells me that not only did her daughter go to school with the man they think killed Quelicia, but also she was pregnant with his child, and that could have been one of the reasons behind her tragic death.
So, and I just want everybody to know what a great person my daughter was.
A shimmering tribute on an otherwise dull highway is a parallel to the bright spark from 29-year-old Akilah Ware.
She was always, making you laugh with something silly. Whenever you pick up the phone, she gonna say something silly, or is she gonna send you something silly?
Twyla Ware says phone calls and messages from her daughter made her laugh almost every day. But now this heartbroken mother realizes those won't come anymore.
It's been awful, and it was just overwhelming, just the way it went about.
Tuesday afternoon, Akilah was found inside her car on the side of Highway 18 in Troup County, riddled with bullet holes. This mother of 5, who was 33 weeks pregnant with a 6th, died shortly after arriving at the hospital.
That's very terrible news to have to hear from anybody, especially when it's one of your children and a grandchild, even if it's unborn.
Police used vehicle evidence to connect this man, Alonzo Dargan Jr., to Akilah's death. He was the father of her unborn child, someone she knew from high school.
It wasn't any red flags, it wasn't. And about 3 months ago or so, she messaged me, and they was out together, and she joked and laughed.
Dargan was an active member of the U.S. military with a wife and children. The U.S. military arrested him in North Carolina Wednesday. He faces charges of feticide, possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime, and murder of a woman lost far too soon.
Quelicia, she was just as beautiful inside as out. She was real kind, just a real special person.
Relative who I spoke with who didn't want to be on camera tells me that Akilah was actually supposed to be out shopping for baby clothes with Dargan the day that she was killed. I'm also told that Dargan is currently in a North Carolina jail. He will be extradited, though, here to Troup County.
He pled guilty to every charge and was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 60 years. He'll be pushing 90 years old before he can even ask to be released. His military career is over, his children are growing up without him, and the woman he killed never came home to her 5 kids. His wife Brianna gave one interview after sentencing that has stayed with people who followed the case. She told reporters, "I myself don't know what happened on that day. I may never make sense of it." She called him a great father and said both families lost in this situation. She was right about that. But none of it changed the fact that a woman and her unborn child are dead because a man decided his secret was more important than their lives. Bring that back to Quelicia. Her mother has said from day one that the pregnancy was the reason she was targeted. The streets have been saying the father of her child was a married man who could not afford for that baby to exist. None of that is officially confirmed, and no one has been arrested. But the structure her family is describing, a pregnant woman killed because someone with a secret could not let her live, is word for word the same structure that already sent one Georgia man to prison for the rest of his life. Georgia law treats the killing of an unborn child as a crime, completely separate from the murder of the mother, which means whoever killed Quelicia is not facing one charge, they're facing 2. And anyone who helped plan or arrange the killing faces the same exposure under Georgia law, which is exactly what Quelicia's mother was talking about when she said the people who instigated this need to go to jail too. The funeral for Quelicia was held on April 24th at Triumph Church North Campus in Southfield, Michigan, right outside Detroit. She didn't make it to that gender reveal. She didn't board that flight home to see her sister. She didn't finish those last 2 semesters. What she deserves now is what the Ware family got: an arrest, charges filed, and a sentence that fits the crime. Do you think Quelicia's baby daddy may also be involved in her murder similar to Akilah's mother? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And
my whole left hand looking like a life New petty, new edit. If I see it, I like it, go get it.
click on one of the cards to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.